There are people who see everything and see nothing. Have you ever stopped to think about that? We live in a world where our eyes are open, but our vision is blurred, and it's not from a lack of light, but from too much distraction. Now, imagine a young woman who had her eyes gouged out, yet still saw more clearly than many people with perfect vision. Sound absurd? Because the story is real. And more than real, it's a mirror that reveals how blind we are to what truly matters. Her name? Saint Lucy, the woman who faced the Roman Empire, survived torture, rejected convenience, and, despite being violently mutilated, shone with a strength that no system could extinguish. Have you heard of her? Probably. But what you may never have been told is why she still inspires millions of people in the 21st century. And look, it's not just because of miracles or religious traditions. It's because her story hides a powerful code, capable of lighting a light within anyone who currently lives confused, unmotivated, or on the verge of giving up. If you've ever felt like you're walking in the dark, if life seems directionless, if you've ever thought you've purposely lost your vision, this video will turn a key inside you. But before you continue, I need to warn you, this isn't a pretty story. It's a raw, powerful, and transformative story. So get ready, because from now on, you'll discover that true vision doesn't come from the eyes, but from the courage to see with the heart. And when you understand what St. Lucy experienced, you'll begin to see your own life through new eyes. Literally. Now tell me, are you ready to truly open your eyes? Imagine living in a world where believing in God could cost you your life. It was precisely in this scenario that St. Lucy made a choice few would have the courage to make. In the 3rd century, when the Roman Empire was stifling any sign of Christianity, she didn't hide, she didn't retreat, nor did she try to protect herself out of convenience. She chose fidelity to Christ even knowing the sentence would be harsh. This is more than bravery. It's spiritual vision. It's seeing a purpose far greater than the fear of pain or death. Now stop and think, how often do we keep quiet so as not to disturb? How many times have you felt the need to hide your faith or your values so as not to cause trouble? St. Lucy didn't have that option. She was surrounded by a brutal system that persecuted Christians, but she chose to be different. This provokes us, because even in a much freer time, we still live hampered by the fear of being judged. And sometimes, the judgment of a colleague hurts more than that of an entire empire, right? And don't think this courage comes from nowhere. It comes from the decision of someone who knows what they believe. When someone understands they have a higher calling, everything changes. And it's this kind of faith that moves mountains, transforms environments, and inspires generations. St. Lucy wasn't a theoretician. She lived her faith with the intensity of someone who knows the world will try to extinguish that light, but that it shines brightest in the darkness. And it was from that moment that a miracle began to happen in her life, and that of her family. In Lucia's life, it all began with a pain that wasn't hers, but her mother's. And how often is that? We only awaken a true faith when we see someone we love suffering. Her mother was facing a serious illness with no solution in sight. Doctors at the time were limited, and despair was rampant. But that's when Lucia turned to the only doctor who never fails, God. She prayed, interceded, and trusted, not out of religion, but out of love. And the result? A true miracle. The healing came as an answer from a heaven that hears sincere hearts. This kind of experience changes everything. Seeing her own mother rise from a seemingly final bed moved Lucia deeply. It wasn't just gratitude, it was a calling. It was as if God had whispered in her ear, I hear you. Now listen to what I have for you. And she did. She made a vow of purity, of total surrender, and decided to consecrate her life to Christ. Mind you, it wasn't a comfortable choice. It meant giving up the world to live for something eternal. Few have that courage. These days, consecration has become a rare word. But what would happen if you, too, heard this calling? And the most interesting thing is that it all began with a sincere prayer. No epic setting, no light from heaven shining, just pure faith. This reminds us that miracles aren't reserved for stained glass saints. They happen when someone truly decides to trust. If you've never seen a miracle, perhaps that's all you're missing, trusting with your whole heart, just as Lucia trusted, even when she was young, even with everything against her. And it was from this delivery that she began to disturb the system around her. Rejecting someone, in itself, often generates resentment. But imagine what it was like to turn down an influential suitor in Roman society, where women were treated practically as property. Lucy said no, and it didn't resound like thunder. The young man, poisoned by his own wounded pride, couldn't bear the rejection, and in revenge he did something unthinkable. He denounced her as a Christian. It wasn't just a tantrum. It was a death sentence. And all because she had the courage to be faithful to her vows. This fidelity, which seemed small, ended up becoming a revolutionary act. Today, the pressure is different but equally cruel. How many people change their values for fear of rejection? How many marry without love, just to avoid being alone? Lucy chose fidelity to God even when it meant breaking with society's expectations. She preferred to listen to the voice of her conscience rather than the cries of the world. And it is here that we learn a powerful lesson. Not every yes is a virtue, and not every no is weakness. Sometimes saying no is the clearest way to say yes to your mission. And see how the consequences of a no can reveal how much your faith bothers. The system doesn't support those who live with purpose. Lucia, by rejecting that man, showed that there was a strength within her that could not be bought or seduced. And that became a threat. So, if your faith bothers someone, perhaps it's a sign that you're on the right path. And there, in that moment of denunciation, the darkest and most miraculous chapter of her story would begin. When Lucia was arrested, she wasn't treated like a common criminal. She was attacked in the very thing that symbolized her greatest sacrifice, her purity. The Romans, seeing that she wouldn't give in, decided to touch on what, in the eyes of the world, was the greatest humiliation possible. They tried to drag her to a brothel as a way to destroy her dignity. And herein lies a profound lesson. When the world can't bend you with praise or promises, it tries to break you with shame. But this didn't work for Lucia. Neither the soldiers nor the oxen pulling her could budge her body. Something invisible, yet real, kept her firmly on the ground. This supernatural resistance wasn't just physical. It was a reflection of a convinced soul, rooted in something greater. Today, the attacks may be different, but the pattern is the same. The world still tries to drag people away from their values, whether through a toxic environment, social pressures, or choices that seem small but corrode from within. And if you've never found yourself trying to resist an invisible force trying to pull you away from what you believe in, you can bet that sooner or later it will knock on your door. And in that moment, Lucia's steadfastness becomes a beacon. The curious thing is that she resisted in silence. There was no fiery speech, no battle cry, only faith. And sometimes that's what's missing. To stop trying to win battles by shouting and start winning them with presence, with firmness, with roots. It's like a tree that, on the outside, sways with the wind, but on the inside is firmly planted. And Lucia was like that. She didn't give in, she didn't bend. And this strength, which the men didn't understand, aroused even more fury, to the point of driving them to commit one of the greatest brutalities she would ever face. Yes, they gouged out her eyes. Literally. It was brutal, it was cruel, and it was symbolic, because it wasn't just her physical eyes they wanted to destroy. It was a light she carried within. They thought that by gouging out her eyes, they could erase her vision, her faith, her strength. But the opposite happened. Lucia continued to see the invisible. She remained steadfast, because true vision lies not in the eyes, but in the heart. And if there's one thing this world still hasn't understood, it's that faith doesn't depend on physical senses. It goes beyond. There are people with perfect vision who don't see a single inch of reality. They live on autopilot, stumbling over poor choices, empty relationships, and directionless decisions. Others, like Lucia, even without seeing with their eyes, see clearly what the entire world ignores. And therein lies the provocation. What has been preventing you from seeing deeply? Sometimes you need to stop trying to see more and start seeing better. This might mean cutting out distractions, silencing noise, and reconnecting with your purpose. It might start with something as simple as turning off your cell phone for an hour a day just to hear what your soul is crying out for. And the most extraordinary thing, in some traditions, It said that her eyes were miraculously restored before her death. There's no way to confirm this with documents. But do you know what this symbolizes? That when we surrender everything to God, He gives us back what the world tried to steal. Sometimes literally, sometimes with something even greater. Faith, clarity, purpose, peace. St. Lucy didn't need eyes to be light, and yet she illuminated generations. And it's precisely this light that invites us to see life through different eyes today. St. Lucy isn't just a figure from the past. She's an answer for those who today walk aimlessly. The title of patron saint of vision goes far beyond ocular biology. She represents the ability to see with the soul, to maintain faith when everything seems cloudy. How often do we feel lost, surrounded by doubts, unsure which path to take? In those moments, it's as if life has blindfolded us. But that's precisely where Lucia's story becomes a map, a reminder that even in the darkest nights, it's still possible to be a beacon. And this light doesn't come from a common place. It's born from the courage to live authentically. Being light today means opposing complacency, loving when the world teaches us to compete, forgiving when everyone prefers to attack. It also means seeing the pain of others, that person on the bus with a distant look in her eyes, the co-worker with a tired smile, the relative who avoids talking about themselves. Being light is looking and seeing, not just seeing and passing by. And that, my friend, requires practice. It requires intention. A practical tip? Commit to seeing one need a day, just one, and do something about it. Lucy invites us to this lifestyle where vision is an instrument of compassion, not just observation, where faith isn't a pretty theory, but concrete action. Maybe you're in a time of darkness, emotional, spiritual, financial, and it's okay to acknowledge that. But what you can't do is accept living in the dark forever, because, as it proves to us, the light isn't outside. It's born within, and when that happens, even the eyes the world tore out are no longer missed. Now, tell me, what has been blinding you? Is it the fear of taking a step of faith? Is it pride that keeps you from forgiving? Or maybe it's that suffocating anxiety that makes you run aimlessly, seeing everything, except what truly matters. If St. Lucy's story touched you in any way, comment below with the phrase, "Lord, give me eyes to see the invisible." Let's flood this video with this prayer and show that there are still hearts awake, thirsting for light. Share this video with someone walking in the dark, because sometimes all a soul needs is a spark. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click the button now and activate the bell. Here, every story is a key, every saint a beacon, and together we are building a path of faith that no empire can tear down.